Welcome everyone back to I Want to Teach English. I'm your host, Jose Torres, and today I got a special guest that's going to join me on the program. We got a number of really hot button topics we want to discuss. So let me just get right into it. I am bringing on a very influential person on social media. She has her own podcast. Tess Timmons is joining us from California, the great city of Compton. Everyone, welcome Miss Tess Timmons.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Tess, good to talk to you again.
Yes, good to talk to you as well. Thank you for being a guest on my show. It was a great time.
It's fantastic. Let me tell you, I had a great time talking with you. I think we talked for like 2 hours or something. It's some crazy time. But Tess, you're an influencer. You have a social media presence, and I admire that. I watch you, and it's like, wow, she's got a lot of followers, and she's only picking up steam. It's incredible, really, to watch.
It's pretty cool. It's great to learn about this and understand it. I was teaching podcasts to my students for about 10 years before I started diving into it myself. And it's interesting to figure out like when in social media with likes and subscribes, what that gains you. So like Instagram will start popping up different features for you as far as like you can obtain gifts at a certain amount, another certain amount you get paid for like live streaming. So it's interesting to see these beautiful professions. I love entrepreneurship and looking at ways that we can always expand.
Absolutely. And anytime we can take some of the things that we do outside of the classroom and bring it into the classroom to give our students a little taste of what it's out there in the world, that not everything is, construction work and clerks at a store, that there's actually a wide range of things that people could do. I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So Tess, I want to get, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump into one of the big topics that I told you about earlier in the email I sent to you. The very first one that I want to discuss is the evolution of teaching. And being that
Mhm.
you and I are have a social media presence, you and I have a lot of creative outlets that we like to delve into. Um, the evolution of teaching, what I'm referring to is the things that are taking place in our classroom. Now, this is something I've been shouting about from the mountaintops for a while now, in that teachers, I think, are still, a lot of their methods are antiquated, and so we need to kind of up the ante, if you will, with video production and audio components and podcasting and that sort of thing. But a lot of teachers haven't quite warmed up to that. What's your take on the whole evolution of teaching from your perspective?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to look at things globally and understand that as well. I think sometimes in America, as we're teaching, we get stuck in our own thoughts, but it's really good to like expand out and see what the world is doing. In some regards, they've been doing a lot more project-based learning than us, or they're still heavy on vocational programs more so than us. I think when we lost vocational programming in like more so the 70s, when a lot of that got cut, and then again in the 90s, I think that we forgot how empowering and impactful kinesthetic learning is.
Mhm.
So I would like to see more of that for sure. Like if a math teacher were to actually have their students build a skate ramp, because a lot of their students are skateboarders, I think that they would have students flourishing in math. I think we need to bend into what they are enjoying and find ways to make it apply.
But what I was referring to is what we can do as teachers to help them continue practicing whatever it is that we're teaching them in class. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I'll give you an example, okay? And
Yeah.
I
I
think
get what
if
you're
you,
saying.
and I know you have a copy of my textbook, right?
I
So
do. I love it.
and so the textbook is got those QR codes in a lot of those activities. And so they're specifically for students to go home and practice them after we're done with them in class. Stuff like that. It's like, okay, I don't expect every teacher to go out and publish their own textbook. That would be something, wouldn't it? But
It's
at
cool.
least, at least maybe once or twice a year to produce something that they could post on YouTube or some other platform and share that with their students so they can go back to it. I think students engage more with those kinds of productions if it's their teacher. They feel like they're more connected. Oh, look, this is my teacher. And I feel that they'll have more urgency in actually doing the work. I mean, that's just my perspective. What do you think about that, Tess?
Well, I kind of want to hear some clarification about that. When you're saying the student sees like you online, or what makes them connect with that?
So let's say you are, well, it's difficult. It's different for us because we produce a lot of content, right?
Yeah.
But like for the average ESL teacher, they don't produce a lot of content. Some would not produce any content. So
Yeah.
like I'm trying to encourage them to attempt it. You know, even if they don't want to put their face on the camera, they don't have to do that. I was just at a conference earlier last week, and I said this exact same thing. Now I have a lot of, teachers that have been doing this longer than me, and I've been doing it for 25 years, right? So they're like, you can't teach an old dog to new tricks, that whole adage. But I'm like, yeah, you can. If you can use a cell phone and you can record yourself, a direction or a modeled conversation or a number of sentences, post that to the internet. You don't even have to have a picture of yourself. It could just be a blank screen with your class name on it. Share that with your students. It's not, hey, look, everybody knows how TikTok works. Everybody knows how YouTube works. Everybody's posted stuff on Facebook before. It's not, you'll be hard pressed to find anybody who couldn't do that or doesn't do that anyway. Now I'm just saying, can we do that for our students where it's appropriate?
So you want to put homework assignments on, like, say, YouTube or TikTok and have them engage with it that way. I've heard of a lot of teachers doing that, like English teachers, when they're analyzing a novel, they'll create like a TikTok or Instagram page dedicated to all of those classes or per class.
Yes.
And then they will put memes up according to the different characters or different parts of the novel that they're engaging with. And then the students really enjoy that because they already interface with that technology. And if a teacher doesn't know how to do that, you always have a student in your classroom that knows, and they can get extra credit for setting it up for you. Like, honestly, when I started doing technology with my students on podcasting, I didn't know what I was doing. I asked the students, who has used CapCut, who has a GoPro, and we started learning together. There was a teacher at Whitney High School in Rockland or Roseville. I went to go visit him. He has a broadcast studio, a full broadcast studio in his school. It's beautiful. And they're called like the Whitney Television series. You can find them on Instagram, shout out. And he learned with his students. He would go and find different parts of machinery, and they would learn how to use the teleprompters. And he didn't know either. So I think being able to set an ego aside or understand that we don't have to have all the knowledge, that we can also be in the atmosphere of learning, and we don't have to have all the answers either. It's okay. My students know that I don't always know. I don't know how to do that. Who else does? So I think being vulnerable in that regard is good. And I usually do a lot of things that are really student-centered. So I think from your point of view, yes, if you can put your face on Instagram or create an assignment on Instagram or TikTok for them, I think that that's great. And I also like have my students do all the work themselves. So I recently have a student who she read a book courtesy of Cupid. She contacted the author, Nishay Jones. Nishay Jones gave her a shout out on Instagram. That was incredible for all of my students to see. Talk about buy-in to read a book. And then recently, Kiki, my student, sent Nishay a video interviewing her on different questions about the book. Nishay put it on her Instagram and then answered those questions. The entire class saw that. So when we do bend into that, I'm not on video at all. So the teacher didn't have to be on video. I did help support them in how to set up their technology and film. Very simple things like, what's your background? Or, oh, I heard someone coughing. Let's refilm that.
So
what do you do for like creating repetition and you're wanting them to practice? The QR codes were a beautiful idea because it helps families as well. Like they're hearing it at home too. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. That has gets a lot of mileage, especially when they usually share it with other people, like in their families and stuff.
Yeah.
That works out well. I'm trying a lot of other different things too. One of the things that I'm working with actually, and this is kind of segueing into the next part of the evolution of teaching, is the integration of AI. That's like in the future. That's actually not that far in the future.
Yeah,
and I want to share some stuff with you. It's going to blow your mind. It's stuff that's happening right now. In fact, I was looking at stuff that was happening a long time ago, like 5 years ago. In fact, the video that I shared with you, I think it is. No, this was the video that I shared with you is last year. But there's another video that I have that I'm gonna share. And I'm gonna share a clip on here. That was 5 years ago.
For this 5th grade class, the day begins with putting on a brainwave sensing gadget. Students then practice meditating.
现在想象我们眉心有一点柔和的光芒绽放。
The device is made in China and has 3 electrodes, 2 behind the ears and 1 on the forehead. These sensors pick up electrical signals sent by neurons in the brain. The neural data is then sent in real time to the teacher's computer. So while students are solving math problems, a teacher can quickly find out who's paying attention and who's not.
说明这段时间他是有点在那走神的。
A report is then generated that shows how well the class was paying attention. It even details each student's concentration level at 10-minute intervals. It's then sent to a chat group for parents.
Is AI, right? And so let me just tell you what that is. But first, I want to get your take on the whole idea of practicing using AI, like an AI robot that's having this conversation with somebody.
Yeah, sure.
Like a chatbot.
Well, recently, like I did like some work with like Babbel, their language program. So anyone can be hired with that, and you get paid, and you talk online with someone that you don't know, and so you don't see them. It's just your voices interacting back and forth together, and then AI is recording that to get the flow of our conversations. I'm interested to find out what they use that for next. I don't know if they'll use like splice that conversation in half and have someone speak back to it, or if that's something that someone will listen to, and then I'm not sure, or if that's just to train the AI. I mean, that's why I wanted to do it, because I wanted to learn about it. But I think that your idea is a good idea. One thing that I used to do with newcomers is with Flipgrid. I would have them record themselves talking about some sort of conversation with someone else, another student, but I wouldn't have them look at the camera. They would get a little too shy. I would have them face each other instead and have a conversation and record it. And then they would watch the conversation over so they could hear how they sounded. A lot of teens are like, I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to hear myself. I mean, a lot of adults are too, right?
Right.
But it helped them with pronunciation. And then the students who are further along beyond just pronunciation and basic learning of words and sounds, those students were looking at, are we actually having a conversation? Are we building thought? Are we listening to each other? Or did I just kind of like move somewhere else? So I think the component of like using AI and having to talk with someone and practice would be helpful. Some students in class are really nervous, so they don't want to raise their hand because they want to sound perfect. Well, we can't sound perfect unless we practice, right? So maybe talking with a robot takes out that shyness. So you could have the student plug in and practice back and forth with the robot. I wonder too, what if they spoke and then the robot spoke the words back exactly how they did? You remember that technique you used where you spelled the student's name on the classroom board?
Yeah.
And they said Maria, M-E, and you
Yeah.
put the E, and then they giggled and said,
Yeah.
oh no, M-A.
Yeah.
I wonder if the robot said the sentence back to them as they wrote it or as they spoke it. This could work for all students.
Yeah.
It's kind of an editor, and now we can hear how we speak. I might
Yep.
say, I wanna, but I'm not going to write that way. I want to, right? So it kind of helps us. I think it's cool. Use it.
I think we don't have a choice, honestly, Tess. I mean, I don't want to bring any dark clouds to this conversation, believe me, but let's face it, it's here. And in some ways, there are already people talking about AI replacing teachers in some form. You know,
I think in
fact,
Florida, they've been using video games and recording stuff for a while. And
yeah, they have. I think we need to incorporate AI more, only because it's we either do it or we miss the boat. You know,
Yeah.
we can if we incorporate it, we can control a little bit of it. But if we don't incorporate it, somebody else will, who may have completely different, plans for, the regular teachers like you and I. Because there's a lot of things on the horizon, and there's a lot of uncomfortable realities that we need to face as not just as Americans, but I think as human beings, really. Because think about it. Okay, let's bring the big elephant.
Yeah.
Let's bring the big elephant in the room here. Okay. There's been a real stoppage or a severe slowdown of immigration in this country. right? Whereas in years past, there has always been an increase, and always our population is growing and growing and growing. Well, I think we're still seeing that growth in some states, like in my state and probably in yours in California, because immigrants who are like going to more friendly territory, if you will. So they're coming to states like my state, Maryland, and your state in California. So we're still going to still see kind of that inflow coming. But as time goes on, Tess, depending on how long this thing takes, we may be seeing where those numbers start to dwindle. And if that's the case,
the numbers are dwindling. Like when I was in Costa Rica, there were many people globally that were like, America's not even in my top 5 or top 10. I have no interest in going to America because of our politics,
political landscape.
Media,
Sure.
Because of many things. There's many people that we are not in the top 10 to travel.
Sure.
To.
I've heard that same thing too, but for a number of reasons. Okay. But here's the reality. Like, we've, at least in my district, we've been hiring more and more ESL teachers, ELD teachers.
Bilingual teachers.
Bilingual teachers. Yeah. I think guys like me who are bilingual may be okay for the time being.
And we need you. We need you.
Guys like me will be okay for the time being, but eventually even guys like me are going to find myself in the same situation. I'll be in the same boat as everyone else. And, you're going to have people not being replaced. Those are positions that are just phasing out, because of the numbers.
Well, yeah, I mean, even districts right now are a little bit in fear. And so they're already pre-cutting jobs in Monterey, Santa Cruz, Watsonville area, up where I've been recently. Slews of jobs have been cut, right? Because of fear of what the numbers will be or what the finances will be for next year.
Right.
With AI, it is going to replace certain jobs. But also technology has always replaced certain jobs. 5 years ago, anyone could, I always look at job applications and I always see what jobs are out there. I find it fascinating. Yeah. And like 5 years ago, anyone could, for $15 an hour, it's not that much really, could be influencing AI, putting in data for AI. And I was like, oh, it's like Wikipedia when it started back in the day. Like, these robots aren't taking over anytime soon. If you're only paying like $10, $15 for anybody to, input data. About 5 years ago too, I was asking the computers to make like crossword puzzles for me. And I handed it out to the students. I just printed it. I didn't even look at it. I'm busy. And the students and I looked at it and we laughed because it totally screwed it up. Like, it didn't work at all. There were word searches and crossword puzzles. And I was like, well, these robots aren't taking over anytime soon. I think we're very creative humans. I'm very creative. And I think the key, instead of fearing the robot or fearing China because they have higher math scores and drill and kill and these old world thoughts, I look at the fact that we keep pushing imagination and creativity, because that's going to help us always, right? I don't know. I don't fear losing the job. If the job can be replaced by a robot, I don't want that job.
Very much so. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to start off talking about the evolution of teachers, the evolution of the job that we do, because as long as we're kind of at the cutting edge, as long as people like us are putting new products out there that we're creating content, we're engaging students with videos and podcasts. I mean, we're staving off the AI threat, if you will. The more engaged we are and the more technologically involved we are as teachers, as educators. I think that's a big key for us. And this is why I preach this everywhere I go to all teachers. Don't be afraid to put a video on YouTube. Don't be afraid to use one of your lessons and record yourself.
Yeah.
This is what's going to ultimately up our stock value as individuals, as teachers, as members of society that requires human interaction as opposed to a machine. And the more we take the back seat and let others drive, the less we're probably going to like the destination.
Well, and I think we fall further and further behind because we're letting fear do that to us. Like, for instance, in Asia, there are gigantic planes that are donated from the government to the middle schools, and they're mechanically working on them, very kinesthetic, right? Mm-hmm. In our classrooms, we are somewhat doing video game design, but not to the full extent, right? Like for Fun for Teachers, great program to help teachers get money and travel. I just read their proposals this year. I was able to do that. And many teachers are going to Japan and learning video game design and learning more about it so they can bring it back to the United States. So I always think about like, are we creating consumers or creators? So looking at like it from a corporate or business standpoint or entrepreneurship, what do we want from our students? Do we want to be able to empower them? So yeah, if we learn the technology and then we help our students design a video game while they're still in middle school, I always tell my students, do I get a 10% cut? You know,
Yeah.
like, let's go. Let's like, what are we waiting for?
I want my piece of the pie.
Right. But let the student like move, you know, I think that's the thing too. We kind of like gatekeep our students, like let them move, let them flow with their learning.
Let them take some of the leadership. Sure. I agree with you 100%. Now, Tess, if you don't mind, can you share your screen, the video that I sent you? It's only 2.5 minutes long.
This is about to become the UK's first teacherless classroom, where 20 GCSE students will spend the year being taught by artificial intelligence instead of human teachers.
What we're attempting to do is to use AI in key subjects at GCSE. The 3 sciences, maths, and English and computer science and possibly geography.
The platforms learn what each student excels in and what they need more help with, and then it adapts their lessons for the term. Strong topics are moved to the end of term so they can be revised, while weak topics will be tackled more immediately. And each student's lesson plan is bespoke to them. GCSE students have been testing out the new tech.
Teachers don't know exactly precisely what I'm unable and able to do, where the AI can just figure out just by a few questions what I'm weak in and what are my strong points, and it helps me develop into a much smarter student.
Although there won't be teachers in the classroom, there will be 3 learning coaches to help with behaviour and softer subjects that AI might struggle with.
They're not being taught subjects by the learning coaches, but we are covering soft skills like public speaking, debate, and the really important personal aspects of a person that you really want to bring out and develop, and turning young people into young adults.
Some people disagree and say removing teachers from the equation will harm students in the long run. Chris McGovern was a head teacher and an educational advisor to Number 10. Now he campaigns against ideas like this.
Children will lose a great deal from that AI experience. They need to have teachers, they need to interact with other children, and that's fundamental. The problem with the AI and the computer screen is that it is a machine and it's inert. So you're straight away dehumanizing the process of learning. It's a soulless, bleak future if it's going to be along the AI path only.
Last year, the Department for Education said teachers are irreplaceable, and AI could never be a substitute for teachers' professional judgment and the personal relationship they have with their pupils.
I want your take on what we just witnessed. Do you see? I mean, that's in the UK. I mean, that's that's Western as Western can be. So, like,
yeah,
how much longer before it reaches this side of the pond?
I mean, there's a lot of variables to it. In some regards, I think it's exciting. In some regards, I think it's interesting. I think there's some debatable topics about that. It's saying like teachers need to be there to teach the ethics. Some parents might say that's my job, right? Like it's very interesting. And then when you look at like math skills, maybe it's a skill-based program that a robot can teach. That's kind of interesting. Wow, I'm not a math teacher. All the math teachers are getting mad right now.
Yeah, I know,
but it might free us as a teacher to talk about more of the ethical sides of things, right? Would it help with classroom management, or is the eyesight going to go down because we're staring at a screen all the time? I mean, there's so many questions that pop into my mind. It's also saying like it's unbiased. People might say that about like police officers. What other programs is it going to take over, right? But I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that the boy said that it can pinpoint in a couple of questions exactly what the youth is talking about and move that student faster. sometimes I see students in classrooms that are bored, right? So I don't know. Like, I think there could be a combination. Maybe that's a station in a classroom, but it's not the whole classroom. But maybe it's a great tool for like science-based work, labs and so forth. I think a lot of doctors train that way too. What do you think about it?
I think there's, like I said, I'm of the opinion that if we're working with it, you know, we can kind of guide it and control it as opposed to it controlling us. And that's where teachers need to have more of a voice in a lot of the things that are going on in our schools. So this is, I think, a struggle that most of us have in public education, is that we're not really listened to by administrators. We're just not. I mean, there might be some places, I don't want to speak for everybody, but in some places, there's some places I think that they very much listen to teachers and get our input. And,
I think it depends on the administrator. Yeah.
But by and large, I think the consensus is that they don't listen to us. And in fact, they might run the opposite direction from what we say. And I don't know if that's, you know, obviously that hasn't worked to our benefit for the students. I mean, the numbers don't lie, Tess. I mean, decade after decade, those numbers keep going lower and lower. And rather than, you know, addressing the issue, we just lower the standards. We keep lowering the standards. And now we have a population of students that are, you know, we're not even on the top 10 of the world stage. I mean,
the colleges are lowering their standards too. It's now we're not.
Whoever thought that lowering the standard was a good idea needs to walk the plank. I'm sorry.